Or not really forever away, but the tank sit down close to the ground. So it hits shit. I'd like to keep it up as high as possible, especially since this truck will end up being lowered. So, now, what do we do? I'm going to have to cut the frame, man. Which sucks. Hopefully a plasma cutter cuts this thing better than it cuts that aluminum. Because that's what I'm going to have to use. I don't know if I can like vice grip a straight edge on that thing maybe, and then do it that way. It's going to have to sit further back though. I just sat that up there because I was tired of holding it when I was trying to shove it in there. So, I think I should build a frame between the bottom of the frame and this. I have some square tube I might be able to do that with. I don't know. That's where I'm at. We got a mess. Lighten the truck up a little bit, you know. And now we're gonna make this thing fit. Okay. That's my conundrum. See ya. We started cutting this thing. It's only the second time I've used this thing. Old cut 50. Probably could have done a little bit better with some experience. So I was hoping that if I set it on this 1x, it would clear the bottom. But you can see that I'm going to have to cut the bottom too. Now, it looks like I got a fair amount of room on this side, which is what I wanted. This side was the first side I did, and I was on the struggle bus for it. So there's not really as much room on this side. You can see it's tight here. So if I have to, I'll cut that side again after I cut these bottoms. I was hoping not to have to cut the bottom of the frame, but here we are. And actually, this might end up being enough room since this is angled, and it's going to sit down, you know, another 2 inches. So even being on this, so we'll see, man. Wish me luck. All right, we're down here again. We're cutting some more off this bottom frame rail. I think we're going to be good on the top. That tank must be a little bit wider on the bottom or something, where it's all the contacts happening on the bottom. So whenever I cut this, I used this piece of plate for a straight edge. It's 1.5 inches wide, and that's what gave me this. I used it up here too, but it was just, I measured and put it up here. Down here, it was just against the inside radius of this frame. So I found some 1.25 inch angle. It's a little bit short, so I had to, you know, cut some and then cut another section, which doesn't really matter because that air compressor can't really keep up anyway. So I didn't tell you the settings I was using. Right now I'm at what, like 70. It drops some whenever I'm cutting. It's still 60 or above, and we're on 47. I'm pretty sure that's amperage out of 50. So, and this is the cut quality that I'm getting right here. So not terrible, not the best, but sure as hell beats a fucking saw. So I'm gonna move all this shit over here, cut this side, flap disc both sides so there's no sharp shit, and then make sure that tank fits. And then we're gonna build a frame out of this 1x to hold that tank up. I don't know if I'm going to try to be fancy and fuck this up and angle the corners and bring them all together, or if I'll just butt weld them. I'm not sure. I would like to do angled corners. It would look a lot better. Not that you're going to see it. And what I'm planning on doing for mounting this tank is rib nuts. So after I get the frame, you know, created, I'm going to drill holes where the bolt holes are on this tank. And I'll just use 1/4 inch hardware, probably like maybe 2 per side or something like that. Well, back here there's only 3, so I'll probably use 3 there, and then maybe 2 or 4 up here, a couple on the side. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. It's not really going to go anywhere, so I probably don't need to use every fucking hole. And then what I'll do is I'll after I have the frame in here, I'll take the tank out of it. So it's just the frame sits in here, and the frame's going to be the width of the truck frame, right? So I'm going to make sure it's square. Then I'll drill through the truck frame in probably 2 places and put a riv nut in the side of this for 3/8 bolts. So my thought is a 3/8 bolt here-ish that holds the tank from sliding, moving, whatever. It holds the frame of the tank. And then I'm just going to use 1/4-inch hardware to hold the tank down to the frame that I make. I think 2 3/8 bolts will probably hold it. I don't think we really need more than that. And I mean, I don't really know where else I'd put them with the shackles being the way here. I can add one later because this is eventually going to go to air ride and a 4-link. So this will be removed anyway. So I could always add one in the future if I think I need it, but I doubt I'm going to need it. The other thing that while I was cutting this, I was thinking about was these shocks. I have new shocks for this truck over here. I just took them out of the box because I was like, you know what? I might as well do these while I'm back here so I don't forget. Well, one of the boxes was open, and it took until now. I ordered this shit in like December. It is now April. That I only have one package of fucking hardware in a box that wasn't opened. So I got 2 new shocks put on here, 1 set of hardware. So I guess I'll see if I can find, some universal energy suspension bullshit to put on there and call it a day. I don't want to use the old shit because it's dry rotted and cracked, but you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. All right, that's where I'm at. Hopefully the next video or segment, whatever, you'll see the tank in here fitting, maybe with just some pieces one by under it, and then I'll make the frame, maybe do a short video there, and then see how it all comes together. After I get the frame of the tank positioned where I want, I need to figure out where to put this cross member. My plan is to bolt it on the top and the bottom. I'll probably throw a bolt in the side too, but I'm probably going to end up welding at least somewhat on each side. I'm going to do the same thing back here. This cross member is considerably heavier than this rearmost cross member. I'm worried about making the frame too stiff and breaking, so I don't want to weld all of the cross member in. The rivets and whatnot, they allow some give. So I'll probably just weld the sides, especially in the rear, because I'm not going to drill another hole right above this hole. So I'll just weld this, and then the top bolt hole will be the bed bolt also, and then the bottom bolt hole will be, the bottom bolt hole. And that's a plan for right now. So let me cut this other side, and I'll get you updated, bud. All right, here we are. So with it the way it is right now, it doesn't seem like I had to cut the top as much as I did. I cut the top 3/8 on each side. So that might have been a little egregious, I guess, but that's what the measurement said. But the measurements were for down here. Like I said, it slopes up. So that's where we're sitting at with the 1-inch frame under it. I got to get some measurements and cut this tube and then cut some cross tube. And I was just thinking about this. So I'm planning on putting this cross member in back here, the thin one here. And the bed bolts here and here, I don't know if it bolts in between here or not. So I need to measure underneath there where the next cross member will sit, because I can't have the cross member sit where like the pickup or something is, or the vent. So I'm gonna have to figure out if it is gonna sit somewhere in here, just to make sure that when I put the bed on, I don't have another fucking problem, you know what I mean? Of course, I own about 35 fucking tape measures, and I can find one right now. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Anybody else have this problem? Let me guess, you do. All right, that's it. It's a short one. I'll hit you back whenever I get some shit measured and cut. All right, this is what I got figured. From approximately the center of this bolt hole for where the bed bolts, approximately 14.5 to 18 inches is where this cross member is. It's not a cross member that bolts to the frame. It just goes across the bed. I'm not sure how high it will really be. I'll show it to you in a minute from this frame. it doesn't look like there's any rub marks on this frame, so it probably doesn't sit on this frame. So if I put this in here like so, and I'll show you what I'm gonna have to deal with for this under the bed too. And this is where that cross member is. If I put the tank right here where it is, then I should have enough room for the pickup, and the vent is what's gonna be tight. I'd rather have the vent be tight than the pickup be tight. So I'm going to, if I have to, I'll just notch this part of the cross member for that vent, but that should work out. It'll keep the weight for the rear too, which is fine, because, you know, most of the weight's up front in these things. And then after I get this cut, the box frame cut and sat in here, is when I'm going to try to figure this one out here. So hopefully I didn't cut too much of this way up here for these bolts, but we'll see. I might have to put in this closer one to the edge back here, and then have it up towards the front. I don't remember if that's how it was in there or not. I think it is, but so let's take a look under the bed, man. You'll see what I'm talking about. All right, so this is where the bed bolts down. Then you have this cross member that it bows up here, so that should give clearance for the tank. This cross member is one of the ones that bolts down to the bed. So I would assume that one has to be flush with the bed, and I would assume that this one would be also, but it doesn't appear like that is the case here. So hopefully there's enough room between this cross member and where the bed sits. It kind of looks like this is lower than this is, but I don't know. So it's something we're gonna have to figure out. But I think the way I got this tank set up right now, it'll work. And then if I have to notch this this cross member, I should just have to notch this side of it, which I'm not really worried about. So I can always just reinforce it or something if I have to. I'm not really doing this bed yet, I don't think. Mostly because of time. So that's a project for another time anyway. All right, that's the end of this one. See ya. Hey, I'm back again. So I was just thinking about this while I was found my tape measure, by the way. One of them. Now I got 2 out of 35. This, like I was saying, this one might have sat lower than the cross beams in this thing. And I think that's the case because this bed, or the frame, it comes up right here. I mean, not by much, maybe half an inch or something, but it was definitely sitting here. If these are the same height as this one, I should have at least that little bit of gap between the frame and the tank, if you can see that, and whatever this is. So the vent for this thing, let's take a look at it, man. It's in here somewhere. Pickup tube. Some fittings. I know I had this thing out of here. Hold on. Well, ain't that a motherfucker? I got this part of the vent, but I don't got the part that goes in the fucking tank. I got the pickup. That's the height of the pickup. So that probably would have been a problem with the cross member. So we'll just point it this way, I guess, and run the lines down this way. We got this part of the vent that I need to take up above the fill tube. I got gaskets for that motherfucker, but not the plate that I assume just has a nipple on it. I've got some compression fittings for my fuel line. So, what the fuck, man? I mean, I bought the fuel line. This is the sender, and this is the aluminum fuel line I'm going to use. The box is fucking empty. That's some fucking bullshit, son. And I guess I gotta I bought it from Summit, but it's made by Tanks Incorporated. So I don't see it anywhere else. Some bullshit, son. All right, I guess I'm sending someone an email or a calling them or something. It's always something, dude. All right, stay tuned. Progress. So I got the box frame cut in there. I decided to not do 45 corners only because I wanted as much as possible to come across the side. So these things are full length for the width, and then this one is just in between those two. This cross member, I wanted to leave a little bit of room here. I could back it up a little bit, but I think I'm going to leave it there. And how I'm lining it up to make sure it's square side to side is these had 3/8 holes in them. And there's, you know, this large hole in this frame. I don't know, it's 3/4 maybe. So I'm lining up the face of both those bolt holes, if you can see that. So then on that side, and this side, this one's going to come back a little bit, but I think that's how I'm going to locate this one. And like I said, I'm not really worried about bolting the sides because I was going to run a bead a little bit on each one of them sides, and then I'm going to bolt the top and the bottom. I have an extended marker. Let's see if I can find it, man. Hold on. This guy right here, the old nib marker. It has a long tip. So I'll use that nib marker after I get this thing 100% lined up, and I'll mark the top and bottom holes. And then I'll have to drill them out. It's gonna probably take me a little bit to figure out how to locate that hole that's actually on the bottom to drilling it, because there's no way I could drill the inside of the frame. So I'll figure that out. What I might do, I might just mark the top of this frame where it's gonna go, and then sit this on top of the frame and drill those holes. So I'm not there yet. Right now I'm still working on this thing. I emailed Summit because I'm missing this this insert for this tank for the vent, which is nice. But I gotta pull this apart. I'm gonna leave that one where it is. I'm gonna pull this one out. I'm gonna pull the tank out. I'm gonna weld, or I'm just gonna tack weld the square frame. Make sure it will slide in there without the tank. Make sure it will slide in there with the tank. And then I'll fully weld that box frame. And then I can probably fuck around with that cross member if I have enough time. Well, I say that after I fully weld that, I'm gonna drill the box frame for these bolts, so that we can mount the tank. So that's where we're at, man. Getting there. Just, you know, shit takes a minute. All right, we'll see you. So I'm over here talking to my fucking self. Anyway, got the frame all welded up. Got the riv nuts in here. Halfway through putting these riv nuts in, I broke my fucking mandrel. So I'm gonna figure out how I'm gonna get that thing out of there. I can get to move a little bit back and forth with a pick, but not necessarily get it out. So, yeah, that's where we're at. I'm gonna try to get this fixed. The tank mounted on here, slid in here, and the cross members. I'm hoping to get the cross members bolted in, welded in, and the fuel line, pickup tube, and filler neck taken care of. Fuel line up to the front because Jake's coming down Friday. Tomorrow's Thursday. I'm running out of time. I'm gonna put that motor in, and I got a big job on Friday. I got some stuff to do tomorrow, so I don't have a whole lot of time to fuck around with this thing still. So running short on time. The other half of these that I put in after I broke that mandrel, I just used the bolt, the nut and double washer method, and that's a pain in the ass, but I wanted to get that part done. And now I'm out of time, so goodbye. All right. So I got this hardened piece of mandrel that snapped off here. I got it out of the threads, but it's in the tube, so hopefully that's not going to be annoying. I got all of those bolted down that I'm going to use. Got 3 in the back, 2 in the front, 2 on this side, 2 on that side. Should be good enough. Worst case, I can add more, but I don't think that thing's going to go anywhere. And now I just got to shove this in here and get measurements and shit for where the tank's actually going to sit, where this cross member is actually going to sit, and where this cross member is actually going to sit. So I was thinking about this. So it turns out last night I forgot to take my Ambien, so it doesn't sleep where the fuck. So this is going to be slow going today. But while I was laying there, unable to sleep, I was thinking, how am I going to mark these holes to drill them? Because, like I said, it's going to be bolted top and bottom, and then I was just going to run a bead on the side. And I can just use a plasma cutter. I can just put it in there and then make a small, circle there, however much radius you can get in the hole, and then I can just drill it out the rest of the way. So I'm going to do that. That's where I am, making progress. I called Summit today because nobody replied to my email, and they're going to ship me the piece that goes here. So they said 2 days because it's coming from Georgia. All right, let's get moving on this thing, man. All right, I think I'm finally ready to put it together. This front cross member, I decided to only bolt it in instead of bolt and weld it in because I still need to C-notch this frame, so I don't want to have to, grind welds out and remove shit. So we're just going to bolt these in for now, temporary service. The rearmost one, I had to kind of like egg out some of these holes because they didn't line up with the ones in the frame. I got the rivet nuts in. I was going to put them in through the side to hold this frame, but it doesn't sit flush against the side because there's still rivets from the shackle mounts on both sides. So I figured doing it against the bottom would probably be easier. I put this bumper on temporarily and realized that where the bolts go for it were right in the way of the frame, of the tube frame. So what I ended up doing was notching the tube frame with the plasma cutter and then welding nuts on the inside of the frame. So I should be able to bring this gas tank in, like on the upper part of this, in between those rivets, and above this nut I just welded in here. And then I can sit the frame down. I should be able to start the bolts in the bottom of the frame. I can put this rear cross member in and then put this bumper on. Theoretically, everything is ready to bolt up. I was going to clean this frame up. I mean, not necessarily the truck frame, but this tube frame, and paint it. But like I said, I got to take all this shit apart again. And whenever I do the C-notch, this is all going to come back out anyway. So I'm just going to say fuck it and rock it like that because I'm trying to get this done today. Because I still got to run fuel line and shit. It's almost 3 o'clock. And I got to go to school around 6. So I didn't sleep worth a damn last night. So things are going a little bit slower than usual. But we're getting there. All right. Hold on. Let me put this thing together a little bit. All right. I was off a little bit on these, but we got them in there. We just got them barely snugged up. I won't tighten those until I get the cross members tight, and then I'll tighten that tank frame. So we got 2 5/16 bolts on each side, grade 8. I'm sure that will hold that thing wherever it is. Let's move on. Finally, we're done. That ain't going nowhere. So this back cross member, I ended up doing a 1/2-inch bolt in each corner of the bottom because the frame already had 1/2-inch holes. Had 1/2-inch bolts for the bumper before. They're both stuck out like this before, but this one I had to weld a nut on the frame, bolt it from the outside to get it to work in the same location it was in. I thought about just welding plate to this and using another hole, and I just said fuck it, welded a nut on there. Got the tank bolted down to the frame, the tube frame. Got the I've got nylock nuts on all those cross member bolts. I don't have nylocks on these, but I have lock washers, a spacer. And I had to ream these out because the holes in this cross member didn't line up with the holes in the frame. So now those bed bolts will still go through there, which would be nice. And there we are, man. It's 3:30. I was hoping to be done with this earlier, but it is what it is, man. So now I'm gonna mount, I guess, the filler neck and the pickup. Try to get that oriented the way I need it, and run fuel line on this thing. And then that's probably gonna be it for the day. I'll probably be out of time by then. But that's another video, man. So this should be, I don't know, maybe video 11 of the series. I might stitch this all together later. I'm not sure, but there it is. So if you want to put this one was listed as a 66 to 68 Mustang tank. It's from Tanks Incorporated. This one, they have different kits. One has a fuel spot that comes straight out. This one has one that angles so it's straight up, so it can go through the bed. I'm waiting on the piece for the tank vent, which I'm hoping is the same size as this, although it doesn't seem like it. If the thing that they send me doesn't work, I guess I'll contact Tanks and see what the deal is with that. Worst case, I figure I'll just cut my own plate with a hole saw and then use the gasket to drill the mounting holes and then weld a fitting in there. But if you want to do this, it's kind of a pain in the ass. Anything that I researched prior to me doing this said, oh, it's easy. It fits right in there. It, in fact, does not fit right in here. You have to relocate these two frame rails. Short bed might only have one, not frame rail, but cross brace. The short bed might only have one of these, but this one had two. So I had to relocate two of them. I had to make the tube frame for this. I had to weld nuts on here. I had to cut the frame with a plasma torch. It was a fair amount of work. I mean, I probably have 20 hours or something in this thing. I don't really know because I didn't keep track, but that's where we're at. And then we got our mounting bolts under there. So this thing can't really go anywhere. And I just left the gap back here and pushed this up against this cross member. So hopefully that all works out, man. There it is. Drink it in. We'll see you. Quick video. I'm done. I got shit hooked up. Should put it in here. I got shit P-clamped. There's probably about 4 P-clamps from here up to the engine. This is a bit long, I think it's going to be, but I won't know until I get the bed on here. Now my real problem. So my lift won't go down. It's stuck at this height. I can put this thing up to the top, release the locks, and come down here. It gets stuck on the bottom lock on this side only. The other side will go down, a little bit more, and then, stop because of the cable tension. And neither one of these cables is loose. I'm going to try to tighten the cables tomorrow, I guess, because I'm out of time tonight. But if you guys know anything about two-post lifts, let me know what the fuck I should do about this, because I need this thing on the ground. So, thanks. Bye. Okay. I got this thing on the ground. I figured out what was going on. I'm going to adjust these cables. Oh, man, hold on. I'm getting a phone call. All right, I'm back. So I think I figured out what was wrong with this thing. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it for temporary service. So, there's a hole there that the cylinder goes through. And I think while this thing was up in the air, this cylinder leaked down. And whenever it came back up, it got stuck on the underside of that steel there. So whenever this thing was coming down, the top of this was underneath that, and it was jamming this post from coming down. So we ain't got time to have that cylinder rebuilt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a hose clamp on there, and hopefully that's stout enough to keep that cylinder up before it leaks down. Or if it does try to leak down, it will fucking zoom. It will hold the cylinder up enough to where it doesn't fall down through that hole again. So I'm going to put this hose clamp on here, and then I'm going to cycle this thing up and down and see if it works. Wish me luck. All right, so maybe we can get back to work on this fucking truck now. Got the old hose clamp tightened on there. I put one on the other side for, good measure. Lubed her all up again with some of this shit. So hopefully that was my issue. Whenever I talked to BenPack, I talked to them last night on the phone right before I had to go to school, and they were saying that what I was telling them wasn't making any sense because they think it was stuck on the last lock, and it wasn't. You can take this plate off and see that was just past the lock. So whenever I finally came down here with some time this morning and looked around, I found out that that was an issue. So eventually we're going to have that cylinder rebuilt, I guess. But what are you going to do now, And I tried tightening these cables, and they were a pain in the dick because you got the nuts on the other side of this, down in that hole. And there's not enough room for my fucking hands in here to hold that nut and turn it, or hold this upper piece and then turn the nut. So I tried a combination of things, and I gave up because, the cables aren't really loose. They're not guitar string tight, but they're on there. So we're going to roll with that. And then I also found this hydraulic cap right there. So it was probably pushing this carriage back more than it should have. Maybe. I don't know. But that's what I got, man. So if you got two post lift problems and it's something that nobody can fucking help you with, check that out. All right. Be good.